Thanks, thanks, Mike, and hello, everybody. Really good to see you. Thank you for the invite. Some familiar names on the screen in front of me, so good to see all of you as well. So, as Mike said, Lawrence Webb, it's my absolute honour to be your next president as of the AGM in the middle of November. So I'll be taking over from Louise. So really looking forward to that. Just a very quick bit of background on me. So my day job is as the Safety, Health and Environment Strategy Director for a large civil engineering company called Costain that some of you might be familiar with. But in my IOSH world, I've been a volunteer for more than 20 years, been a member for nearly 30 years. So just waiting for that gold watch to turn up in the post. Something tells me I'm going to be on for quite a long wait. But I also sit on the construction group. Previously I've sat on the professional standards committee and council and done lots of other things in the background. But now I'm in a very fortunate position because I get to talk about things like catch the wave to good people like yourselves. So I'm going to take about 25 minutes, something like that, just to run through the basics of what catch the wave is all about. And I'm hoping that some of you on the call today might already be vaguely familiar with the initiative and what it's for, what it's trying to achieve. For others of you, it could be completely new, in which case that's great. But I believe you are the first branch to actually get what I referred to earlier as the new all singing, all dancing version, which is one or two slides slightly different to the original version. So hopefully you can all see that now. If I can just have maybe a thumbs up from Mike or Brenton, that would be good. Fantastic. So that's a fantastic start. So catch the wave there. First thing I'd say is please take note of the little ditty down at the bottom there, hashtag catch the wave. If anybody's thinking of talking about this session afterwards, please use that little tag there, because that means that it will flag up catch the wave as the sort of initiative in all the social media. But before I actually start talking about the detail behind Catch the Wave itself, it's just worth, I think, reminding ourselves and just setting the scene a little, really, in terms of what this is all about. I mean, we should start by reminding ourselves, as if we need to be reminded, what the IOSH Vision is, and ultimately it's exactly what it says on the tin there. You know, we are driving on a global stage to ensure a safe and healthy world of work. Now, what's really important for me, and I'm sure it's the same for every person on this call, no matter where you're dialing in from, the reason we do what we do as a profession is because of people. You know, we're people's people. And, you know, I've been there at the best of times in organizations when everything is going really well, you're getting great performance, you've got a fantastic culture, everyone's happy, and you're just doing a really good job. And unfortunately, I've also been there at the time when that hasn't been the case. And there's been, you know, there's been tragedy, there's been some sort of terrible events and what have you. And to be brutally honest with you, there, you know, it's because of the fact we are there to support people and make sure that everybody goes home safe and well every day, that organizations are able to find themselves in a place where they, you know, they absolutely can make the most of our profession to ensure that great job is done. And obviously IOSH is key to supporting that and putting the foundations in place. And Catch the Wave is very much about taking our profession and using it to really enhance the benefits that come with looking after your people. Because I've said for 30 years, and I know some of you on this call have said the same thing, because I've seen you post it in social media, or I've heard you talk about it before, or in fact we may have talked about it together, but people are the single most important asset in any organization. And I'm very fortunate in that the organizations that I've worked for, generally, not entirely, but generally, I've always believed that to be the case, that people are the most important asset. So Catch the Wave is very much about social sustainability. Now, sustainability as a concept is interesting because it's been around for a long time, but lots of different people have lots of different views and versions as to what that actually means. So, you know, we have the triple bottom line. We have meeting the needs of today without compromising future generations to meet their needs, and so on. But social sustainability is something which has always been there in the mix, but more recently, especially post-COVID, it started to gather momentum, where I think people are realizing the benefits in taking social sustainability as a concept and actually driving it into the heart of organizations. So in developing this initiative, Catch the Wave, IOSH clearly had to hang its hat on what it thought was social sustainability, and this is the definition that they've gone for, which was developed by the United Nations Global Compact, that I'll come back to and talk a little bit more about later. So what we're saying here is, and I'll just read from the screen if that's okay. So social sustainability is about identifying and managing business impacts, both positive and negative, on people. So clearly people are the focus. It's obviously about making sure that businesses can do what they need to do now. They can look to the future, bring their people on that journey, and really invest in people, and understand the value that they bring. And this is where we come in as a profession, because, you know, the IOSH, being a member of the IOSH profession for as long as I have, I'm really proud of a number of different things, but one of them is just what our connections look like. Because if you can think of another profession that has to be connected with so many disciplines, and therefore because of that has to understand, or at least appreciate, where all those disciplines are coming from and all those different subject areas, you know, we're in a really unique position. Because if you think about it, we need to know about I don't know, just physics, maths, geography. Clearly we need to sort of have a reasonable understanding of languages. We get involved in different facets of engineering, psychology, sociology. I mean, and the list goes on and on and on. And that places us, you know, right at the heart, hopefully, of our organizations, because that's essential to help manage our people. And that's exactly what social sustainability is all about. Bringing them on the journey, making sure that they're looked after during that journey, but understanding the benefits that people bring along the way. Now, this is nothing new, actually, to IOSH, because back in 2018, some of you may recall this particular document, The Healthy Profit. It was based on some research that was done over a period of time with some 500 organizations. And they were basically sort of, you know, interviewed around our profession, on where they saw the profession in their particular remits. And what they were saying at the time is that only 31% of those organizations that were involved in this research felt that the safety and health profession was a sort of a core to their success, which I find really interesting, because you know, many of you on the call again are quite sort of vocal about the fact that actually we are essential for success, not 31%'s worth in terms of how people might value us, because it's not just about the sort of bottom line. Clearly that's important, but unless we're looking after our people, unless we're looking after our environments and trying to provide a workplace where people can be at their best and keep coming back and doing the same thing, then it's going to make life really, really difficult. But that's where we were. 31% of those organizations felt that our profession was essential to success. I think that's a challenge, but I also think it's an opportunity, because COVID has changed so much about what we do, the way that we see the world, and so on, that our profession has really had to step up and be there as that springboard for organizations and employers on the global stage, as we continue to manage our way through the COVID pandemic. But again, you know, nothing new in terms of how important our profession is on that global stage, because as far back as the year 2000, we had the Millennium Development Goals, which were put in place as just 8 key areas to begin with, in terms of what everybody around the world, governments, employers, other organisations, should effectively be searching for and striving for in terms of those high-level goals, with a view to the future. And then obviously we've now morphed into the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are the 17 little tablets there you see in front of you. And many of you would have organisations that have realigned themselves to those 17 goals. But what you've got scattered in amongst those is something like 169, I think it is, individual targets. And a quarter of those are all related directly to the IOSH profession and what we do and the value that we bring. So we shouldn't underestimate the fact that we potentially have a huge opportunity for influence. And in those times and in those places where that influence isn't there, wouldn't it be good if we had something that we could use as a framework to start to build our profession in the support of people that we work alongside, to help organisations and employers really be fit for the future? And that is exactly what Catch the Wave is all about. So, as I say, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are pretty core to many organisations now. You can see across the top there the 4 key areas that these 17 high-level goals are actually geared up to, and clearly, you know, individuals, that most important asset, features all the way through. Now, more recently, we're moving from corporate social responsibility that many of us will be familiar with, where all of this sort of journey started some time ago for many organisations across the world. And we're in the world now of ESG reporting, so thinking very much about environment, the social side, and governance reporting. But you can see here that CSR, as it was, and everything linked back to the triple bottom line, always had the sort of societal aspect to it, but that has much more come to the forefront. And the United Nations Global Compact that I mentioned earlier, that IOSH is working very closely with as an organisation, has now got 15,500 organisations across the world, over 165 countries, as it says there, supporting an initiative to try and drive employers to understand that they're a force for good, but actually, you know, the workplace, people, and the work that they do is effectively the fuel behind that. So we're doing a lot of work now as IOSH, as part of the United Nations Global Compact initiative, to try and effectively pass on that message and explain where our profession and where IOSH as the global membership organisation for our profession actually sits. So you'll be seeing more come out over the coming months about Global Compact in particular. So just to finish off this sort of scene setting, it's also worth mentioning COVID again. We can't really escape it. As employees, we've had to change. We've become more agile, more flexible. We've had to adapt ourselves to a different way of work and a different set of expectations. And of course, you know, the same can be said for employers across the world. But I think it's made us all stop and look inwardly, perhaps a little bit more than we have done for some time, and have realised just how much we as individuals have had to be a part of that changing focus. And you know, there's trains of thought sort of saying, well, at the moment, for the last 2.5 years, you know, employees have done a lot to support their employers and other organisations in this time of change and difficulty, and is now not the time perhaps that employers need to recognise that, make the most of that opportunity, and then sort of give something back. So just bear that in mind for a second. Same could be said for us as consumers, because we're much more savvy and we're much more aware than I think we've ever been in terms of who we purchase goods from. where our ethics stand, and organisations that perhaps we used to act as, consume from as a consumer. We're a lot more standoffish with certain organisations because we don't understand what their particular corporate drivers are, and we don't necessarily agree with their ethics in a number of different ways. We've certainly become a lot more environmentally aware, and clearly that is absolutely building in the background in relation to climate change, carbon reduction, and so on. But again, people as an absolute driving force behind cultures. It's really important to recognise that as an employer, for example, that your people are not just employees; they are very much consumers of different products and services, and there's a lot of power and influence that actually comes with that. So any initiative going forward would be really lapse if it didn't recognise that as being a fact. And finally, what does this mean for the finance world? Well, quite simply, the world of investment and the world of finance has very much woken up, especially in the last decade, to the fact that those organisations that put their people at the heart of their development, their resource planning, and what they really, really do to look after themselves as a business, those are the sound investments. Those are the places where the money needs to be going to, because they know that it brings a lot more than just profit. It brings a very positive culture. It brings growth. It brings diversity of thought. It brings opportunity. And it basically brings an organizational personality to people that these organizations might want to work with. And there's a number of different pieces of research that have been done, and the graph that you can see on the right hand side there, you can't necessarily actually read that, but what you can see is a representation of where finance is going in relation to organizations on the global stage that are investing in their people as being that key asset that I've mentioned a couple of times. So clearly, you can see that there is a definite force to be reckoned with all this. So this is exactly what Catch the Wave is there to do. It's literally there to catch this wave that's building, and provides something for employers to make the most of this opportunity, but use our profession as the facilitators and the drivers for that. So it's very much a vision for action. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share with you a video that just lasts just under 3 minutes, just to give a little bit of insight and introduction to the initiative itself. And then we'll talk a little bit about what that actually means to yourselves. And then we'll move into some Q&A. So just a short video to explain this some more.
There's an unstoppable wave of change moving across the global business landscape, cascading through boardrooms, sending ripples through supply chains and beyond. It's time to catch the wave. The COVID-19 pandemic, climate crisis, and rise of social justice movements around the world have all accelerated thinking beyond the here and now. What does it mean to be a responsible, sustainable, resilient business built on solid environmental, social, and governance principles? It all starts with people. It's no coincidence that those businesses setting high standards for the treatment of their workforces, communities, and supply chains reap rewards with stronger performance and growth. Our connected world expects organizations to prioritize public good and behave responsibly. Employees and customers will call out poor working conditions and demand better. But this is not just about doing the right thing. Social sustainability is the backbone of corporate resilience. It supports stronger operational performance and cash flow. And right now, that feels more critical than ever. The environment has been the flagship cause driving the corporate sustainability agenda. Now it's time to put people alongside planet and profit, to unlock and unleash the tremendous value that lies in our global workforce. IOSH is working alongside international organisations, including UN agencies and initiatives, such as the World Health Organization, ILO, and UN Global Compact, to to harness the collective energy of progressive businesses. Together, we're making a long-term commitment to drive social sustainability forward, with a global force of safety and health professionals making change happen on the ground. Because safer environments and enlightened attitudes to health and well-being, diversity and inclusion are all safety and health issues too. And COVID-19 has shown just how vital it is to protect people. If businesses are not just to survive, but thrive. Together, we can be part of a global network of resilient, profitable businesses and organisations that flourish, equitably and sustainably, around safe, healthy workforces. It's time for a new world of work. It's time to catch the wave with IOSH.
So a bit of an introductory video there, but let's just think about what this means for us as a profession. I'm hoping that you'll all recognise where you sit in this very basic diagram here. This is certainly my personal experience in the best organisations I've worked in, and I fully appreciate, having been there and done it in the operational world for so long, that's not going to be necessarily the case for everybody. However, we can absolutely act as an enabler if we're correctly positioned within organisational structures. So clearly we need to be able to interact and engage with the workforce. At the end of the day, they are the people that are actually doing the hard graft that keep organisations ticking over. But equally, we also need to be able to support and influence the operational management aspect as well, and understand what it's like to be the people that are actually getting that work done, and the power and the importance of line management in particular with regards to looking after occupational safety and health of individuals in the workplace should never be underestimated. But we also need to be able to interact effectively at board level and wherever possible, the C-suite, the chiefs, the people at the very top of the tree on the 9th floor in terms of their leadership shadow, what it is that they're actually trying to progress forward in the eyes of the organization. And because we're tapped into the various levels, and as I mentioned earlier, hopefully the different disciplines, almost like a matrix, if we can actually have our fingers in as many of those different pies as possible, we've got a great opportunity to influence, but also to enable. And if you sort of look at just how this becomes almost like throwing a stone in a pond and watching those ripples move out across an organization, if you take the worker safety and health aspect in the middle here, what you can actually see is the interactions of all the different parts of an organization that we can influence through these engagements. And because these are very much long-term goals, as well as being the sort of shorter term get the job done type requirements, then you can see that as our influence grows and people start to see the value in what we're doing as a profession, and the benefits they'll get through a happier workforce, better growth, better margins in what they're actually doing, but a safer and healthier workplace in general, more investment because the outside world can see what a good organization you actually are, and then the knock-ons on society and everything else. Hopefully this becomes a sort of an ever repeating cycle that keeps us very much at the center. And of course, in all this, we're absolutely meeting our own imperative in terms of looking after individuals and this sort of vision of a safer and healthier world of work that hopefully improves day on day on day. So, we need to position ourselves very much in the center, and that may well be a challenge that some of you actually have, which is a challenge in its own right, because what we're talking about here is potentially quite a big change. Some of you may already have a very sound, very positive IOSH culture, where people are very much on the same agenda, same understanding. Everyone's positive, everyone's moving forward, in a very positive way. But others of you may not have that, and it may be a genuine day-to-day struggle that you find yourself in, and change is difficult. We absolutely need to recognise that with an initiative like Catch the Wave, there are going to be those who have challenges associated with change. And I would argue personally, you would need a change management system of some description to make sure that these things you put in place are absolutely picked up, recognised, and then driven forward. And a lot of that is going to be associated with behaviours and behavioural management. The one thing I have been saying, though, for as it says there, over 30 years, is please remember that we should be seen as an enabler, not a disenabler. Because if we're seen in the old style disenabling sort of, you can't do this, you can't do that, put that down, this isn't possible, that is never really going to help us moving forward. We very much need to be seen as the people to come to actually support change, to support people, to make things better, and be that sounding board and that sense of reason that organisations need to go forward and improve. And COVID has actually started to show that we are very much in that place. So we need to make the most of that opportunity. So finally then, we need to provide some tools and some materials and some further insights to allow organisations and employers such as yours to actually do something about this. So there is a number of things that have been produced already. I'm sure that some of you have come to the webinars that have been running over the last 12 or 18 months. Those have been really interesting because we've had some very capable individuals from forward-thinking organisations talking about social sustainability and what it's meant to them and what they've actually done to manage the COVID pandemic, but put the IOSH profession very much in the centre going forward. We've had case studies from organisations who've actually sat down and thought about what this initiative is and what it actually means to them. And we've also produced some research of our own and a white paper that basically gives the justification for why this is so important and gives a lot more detail to everything I've mentioned in the last 20 or 25 minutes. So I'll show you the links to those in a second. But it is definitely having an impact. Catch the Wave is literally doing that. People are catching this wave. And I'd introduce you here to Sheena O'Brien, as a lovely young lady from South Africa. And she works for Sun International, the organisation who's very much in the world of entertainments and like. And she's actually produced a little case study and a supporting statement in terms of what this has meant to her in her day job within her organisation. And if you let me, I'll just read this again off the screen. But Catch the Wave has instilled in me a sense of purpose. Health and safety is an integral part of any company's sustainability journey. It's my objective to ensure that people, and more specifically the need for a safer and healthier working environment, is elevated and represented on the sustainability agenda of my organisation to fulfil a necessary social need. So the social aspect very much at the centre, and this is something that they've absolutely taken forward. And we would like to hear from you and other organisations who've reviewed the Catch the Wave materials and have taken it forward in terms of what's it actually meant to you. Tell us about the benefits, tell us about the obviously the challenges, but very much explain to us what it's meant to you as an organisation for forward planning and just how much your employees mean to you and where the IOSH profession has clearly supported. Because in summary, what Catch the Wave is all about is this call to action, as I've just alluded to, but to recognise the potential that is sitting there with our profession, post-COVID in particular, to drive organisations forward and make sure that people and IOSH is at the very heart of everything that organisations are doing going forward. here is some information that you can actually get quite simply. I would say just go onto the IOSH website and put Catch the Wave into the search bar at the top, and you'll have access to these things, including the video I've just shown. There is a lot of good background information that's there to help you have those conversations at the highest level and explain what this is about. Maybe, you know, working with other departments rather than OSH. You may have, you know, ESG specialists or others that you actually want to sit down and work with. So that background information is really useful for context and the like. But also there's training available now, so short bite-sized training, and there's other training that's coming very shortly, which is in very much the spirit of managing safely and others, to help you sort of, you know, build that suite of knowledge in a similar way. And now there's a second white paper about phase 2 of all of this, not so much the why, but now all about the who, and specifically the what is it we actually need to do. So this is not a one-stop shop. This is not a one-trick pony. This is not a 12-month initiative. This, if it's done right, would actually become very much a part of organisations and their sustainability agenda, and therefore their development into the future. So that's absolutely what Catch the Wave is about. So if nothing else from today, please just go onto the IOSH website and look up the materials and see if this is something that you can endorse and actually pick up as you go. So there you go. In 25 minutes, as promised, that is Catch the Wave. I'll stop sharing my screen, and we'll see if we can get a bit of a discussion and a few questions going, perhaps.
Any questions from anybody? It's obviously holidays have all gone quiet.
So don't forget to unmute if you need to talk.
Yeah, I'll just have to remember that. Any questions for Lawrence?
Thought this could be a very short meeting. This is what they call in circles the Lawrence Webb effect, where yeah, that'll do for me. Thank you very much. No questions.
I'll guarantee you, Lawrence, if we were in the room, there'd be lots of questions for you and you wouldn't get out.
Lawrence, I'll pipe up and ask you a question. My name's, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I've had some technical issues. So I'm Helen Holland. I'm the recent new chair of the Midland Committee. I've loved listening to your presentation. It certainly is an interesting initiative that you've got to bring forward. But I just wanted to step back a little bit, really, because I am very new to this role, and just wondered really if you've got any tips or advice for a new chair of how to make a success of my position.
Oh, right. Okay. So your position in particular.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, crikey. Okay. Well, I think that there's a couple of things we probably need to consider. I mean, first of all, it sounds a bit silly, but you know, you've got a great team around you. I would absolutely make the most of the people that you've got access to, because at the end of the day, it's the voluntary nature and the goodwill of everyone on this call as people who take the time to dial in. But in particular, the branches and all the other volunteers like myself that take the time, you know, absolutely use every opportunity you've got to work as a team. And I think it's really important to always make sure, and I know that you do this anyway as a branch, but just stay really connected with your members. And interestingly, IOSH Council now has a new structure which is there deliberately to make the most of the engagements with membership, so that council can really take those issues that the membership, either directly or through branches and groups, feel is the most important thing that needs to be at the forefront of discussion with the Board of Trustees, because ultimately they're responsible and accountable for the direction of IOSH and sort of what it's doing. So I would also, make sure that you're engaging with the 4 steering groups that are in council, because there's one for member representation, one for strategy and policy, there's one for future leaders, and there's also one that oversees the effectiveness of council to make sure that we're doing exactly what we're supposed to do. But we also hold the Board of Trustees to account. but also listen to the members and reflect the want of and the needs of the members, because that's what council is for. That's why people are voted into those roles. I think something, you know, something else that's really important, and now that things are starting to open up for you a bit more, if you can make the most of the face-to-face opportunities and get people back in that room. And as Brenton just said, when you've got people in a room and you've got that buzz and you've got that very sort of personal feel about the meetings, that's going to generate a lot of excitement and opportunity going forward. So whenever you can, and you sort of put a basic just business case together explaining why you want to do that, I'd make the most of those as well, because I think that's what people are looking forward to. They're really looking forward to getting back to that style. So there's a few things there, but there's lots of others, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Lawrence. That's amazing. Cheers.
No problem.
Anybody else?
Lawrence, hello. Tom Stockwell from the IOSH branch, but also day job work in voluntary and charitable sectors. So your phrase, being an enabler, not a disabler, is quite apt, because it feels like sometimes in the voluntary and third sector we're a little late to change things, and the health and safety professional is seen as the person that stops things being enjoyable. So that's key. But I'm really I'm interested and keen that, and it's quite right that the UN Sustainable Development Goals are at the forefront of all of this. And I suppose my question really is around, they're also at the forefront of a number of other professional bodies. So for World Facilities Management Day, those 17 goals were the core and the focus for that. So with all the resources and materials, I'm just kind of wondering and conscious, this is a fantastic wave and push, and I'm really excited about it from IOSH. Is there thought to share, to link, to have a kind of, not say unified front, but where other people are very much taking these important 17 goals as their key in other professional bodies to have a bigger voice, maybe, in that respect?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Tom. It's not just a good point; it's absolutely essential, because the one thing that is absolutely true of our profession is we can relate to virtually every other professional organization that's out there, because, as I said earlier, we are quite often at the core of everything that a business does. So certainly in the background of IOSH and its strategic objectives as an organization, developing relationships with other like-minded professional bodies like ICE, IChemE, IMechE, as you said, Institute of Facilities Management, and all those others. There is a lot of work that goes on to build those relationships in the background. And as an individual, I do exactly the same thing in my day job, and I look for every opportunity to work with other organisations to see where the overlaps are, because we can act as that influencer and that facilitator, and make sure that not only is our voice heard, but we're doing it together, and we're not overlapping, or we're not allowing gaps to open up. Or sort of, worse still, we're going off in two separate directions, when in fact the chances are we're all aiming towards the same end result, which is what the goals ultimately are. They are goals. So that would be my answer. It's in two halves. One, we should carry on doing whatever we can as individuals within IOSH as a member to actually develop those relationships and understand how it works. But I completely accept the fact that at the higher level, IOSH, along with these other organisations, need to be talking to each other for exactly the same reason, because that's where the real sort of power comes from as a developed community, to try and support the goals. We can only do so much as individuals, a little piece at a time. But together, these organisations have a huge amount of power to drive them forward. Definitely agree 100%.
Brilliant, thank you.
Do you have any more, Mike?
No, there's nothing come up on this chat line.
No.
No.
Well, Lawrence, thank you very, very much for doing that for us. It was excellent. I'm sure a lot of people on here have got a better insight into what the Catch the Wave campaign is all about, and really grateful that you could give up your time to come and support Midland branch this afternoon by delivering this presentation.
It's no
Thanks,
problem.
Lawrence.
No problem. It's
Thank
absolutely-
you.
What I'll do is I'll put my my IOSH email in the chat, so that if anybody wants to send any feedback or has got anything in particular, if I can't answer, I'll direct to the right person. No problem.
Okay.
Marvellous,
great,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Committee obviously stay behind. Everybody else, don't forget September the 1st. Hopefully we're at face to face at Holyfields for building safety. Look forward to seeing
Yeah.
everybody then.
Definitely. Take care. Thank you.
There we go.